Chapter 1. Pebbles and Pirates. PJ Petulant picked up a smooth, wet pebble from the sandy beach of the little cove and threw it lazily into the ocean.
"Do you know how long it took for that pebble to get onto the beach?" asked the moon hare. "Its whole life, and now you've just thrown it back into the sea and it's got to start all over again."
PJ looked down at the moon hare. He was lying on his back on the sand, wearing a rather silly, stripy, all-in-one bathing suit. His eyes were closed and he had a large blob of green sunblock on his nose. "Stupid," said PJ. "Pebbles don't have lives. They're just pebbles." The moon hare opened one eye lazily.
"They do too have lives, actually," he said, "and names. That one was called Derek."
"I knew a pebble once," said Sandra the dragon, joining in. "It was grey." PJ looked hard at them both. It hadn't been long since the moon hare had returned from the moon to Outlandish, appearing suddenly in the amazing maze. Since his return, thought PJ, he'd been even more harebrained than ever. PJ giggled to herself. Harebrained. The moon hare had his eyes closed again and was humming to himself. Sandra was sitting a little apart from them, further up the beach on his towel. He was wearing an enormous rubber ring around his middle and was staring hard at the sea. Sandra couldn't swim and he didn't trust the water. "I don't float," he would often say to anyone who'd listen. "I glide and I soar, but I don't float. It's not a dragonish thing to do." PJ had learnt there were lots of things that weren't dragonish to do, usually because Sandra didn't feel like doing them. PJ learnt a lot about moon hares too. Most importantly, they like sponge cake with blue icing, wardrobes, stripy tights and stuff. Sometimes she had the feeling she was the only sensible one in the castle. Moon hares could also be good fun too, but she wouldn't tell him that. Instead, she said, "We should be going back to the castle now. It's nearly tea time and Cook is making beans on toast."
"And custard," said the moon hare.
"Does the sea look closer, do you think?" asked Sandra suspiciously.
"I used to be a captain on a ship," said the moon hare suddenly.
"They don't have ships on the moon," said PJ. "Do you even know what one looks like?"
"I do, actually, yes. They are big and wooden and have big white things on them on poles and lots of wool and ladders and bangy pots and a parrot."
PJ giggled. "Silly," she said.
"They do," said the moon hare, standing up.
"It's definitely getting nearer," said Sandra, holding his beach towel up for safety. "Moon hare, ships don't have wool and bangy pots," said PJ, standing up and packing her beach towel into her bag.
"They do, and they have a black flappy flag with a smiley face on it."
"They don't," said PJ firmly.
"Do," said
the moon hare, just as firmly. "I think they do, actually," agreed Sandra. "Sandra, you never go near the sea except when you're with us. This is a quiet cove. Ships just don't come here." "What's that then?" asked Sandra, pointing. PJ stopped packing and looked out to sea. Sure enough, there on the horizon was a ship.
"There,"
said the moon hare rudely, and he stuck out his tongue. It was a large ship with billowing white sails. It was painted an unattractive sludge green colour and had shiny brass portholes and yellow masts. At the top of the tallest one was a flag, the Jolly Roger, the flag of a pirate ship.